I put in about 2 or 3 applications to places I thought I could get scholarships. And I was talking to one of my buddies one day, and I said, where are you applying? And he said, well, I'm going to apply to Army, Navy, and Air Force. And I said, well, I thought you were going to go to college. And he explained it to me. It was a shock, to say the least. The first time I walked up and then got guys yelling at me from all directions and doing more push-ups than I ever thought I could do. And that night, we finally got into our room, and my roommate that night, we both swore we wouldn't let the other one quit. And fortunately, it never came up. The main thing I took away, I think, was being able to work under intense pressure. I'd never really, other than trying to make a free throw at the end of a game when you're going to lose or win. That was as close to a stress situation I've ever had. Of course, when you got there, then you were under stress the whole time. So I think managing stress was a key element that I came away with. And to be a good human being, you need to be a person. You need to be a person of character. Going in where you're going to be a leader of character was something that I think I formulated that I've been able to use successfully. I always dwelled on doing the right thing, and making a team, because a single individual, I don't care how good you are, a single individual cannot accomplish much, but if you build a solid team, you can, and I think that's the same thing I took away from the academy as well. Captain Cunningham was the law professor that I had most of my classes with, and he encouraged me to look into joining the JAG group when I got out instead of going to pilot training. I said, well, I'll try that. So I took the LSAT and aced it, and got offers. He helped me get offers to Harvard, Virginia, and Georgetown. That's when all hell broke loose in Vietnam, and I got a call from the Judge Advocate General through Captain Cunningham and saying, son, we need pilots more than we need lawyers right now. So went to Reese Air Force Base. That's where I met my wife. Nan was a senior at Texas Tech, and I knew I was going to get my assignment, so I called her up and asked her to marry me, because I knew if I had waited a year and a half, she wasn't going to be around. So the colonel had, not to my knowledge, but until we got the actual assignments, the colonel had put in to have me come back as an instructor pilot. So, which at the time was somewhat of a disappointment. In fact, it was a big disappointment, because at that time I was considering going to stay in the Air Force, make a career out of it. I went to the training course at James Connolly in Waco, and I got pulled off the flight line after about 18 months and put into academics. So about 6 months later, I got selected to head the academic squadron for the T-37 program. When we were flying, I was academics half a day and flying 2 times. Ended up with almost 1,600 hours, which was more than I think anybody else by far. I probably have more self-confidence than I should have. And I knew I was capable of doing a lot, and I just couldn't see myself staying in a seniority-based situation. I actually ended up getting out early because there was a bubble of pilots going, fighter pilots going to Vietnam. I had orders in F4 to go to, and had taken all my shots. I'd done everything ready to go to Vietnam, and I got a call from the head of the flight personnel in Randolph, a colonel, saying, we know you put your resignation in to get out when you get back, assuming you get back, and how would you like to get out now? And he phrased it a little more than that, and I wasn't real sure that I understood what he said, but I remember distinctly saying, you bet your sweet ass, sir. 2 weeks later, I'm in grad school, literally. So after grad school, I interviewed with 6 companies. I got offers from all 6. Back then, if you were ex-military and had an MBA and an engineering, you could go anywhere you wanted to, anytime you wanted to. So I was very fortunate, and timing is everything, as they say. So I took IBM, even though I think it was the cheapest. They were the cheapest in terms of salary, but they promised, extensive training in computers, which back then I hadn't had. So I got promoted twice. But when I ended up in corporate headquarters, it's back to, I don't want to be an IBM corporate flunky. So one of my customers in Birmingham was a Naval Academy graduate back from in World War I days. I called him up and I said, Mr. O'Neill, you know, if that offer to talk about joining O'Neill Steel is still open, I'd love to come talk to you. I'd sold him a lot of computer stuff and the guy they had doing it wasn't that great. So the first thing I did was get everything I'd sold them going, and then they made me general manager of the largest facility, which was about a $55 million operation. Back then, you know, inventory was a book. So we put in this automated inventory, so if you wanted a 2x4 channel, steel channel and so, you could put it in the computer and it'd come up and say, yeah, you got 4 here and 8 over there, kind of thing. So I put that in and it made all kind of news in the steel industry. The steel industry wasn't really forward back then. So I got so much press from it, I got a headhunter call. I joined this company. We moved the headquarters from Philadelphia to Tulsa. It was part of the Williams companies. The Williams companies had 5 separate big companies underneath their umbrella. I was one of the 5 presidents under that. And we grew the company from 97 million to 660 million. It was fun and had a great team. We, of course, had a big organization by the end. So I got a couple of headhunters that knew about me. Had one of them call me and he said, I got this Fortune 500 company that we need a new president and somebody that can work 90 hours a day. And Rivera had been, they were the 10th largest company in the United States in the 30s. And a series of just poor management over years in bankruptcy because of some bad aluminum deals, basically. So, in talking about, that was my moment of hesitancy, by the way. I mean, I remember thinking, you know, if I get there and screw this up, I'm done. Spent a lot of time with the bankruptcy attorney who was excellent. And they'd laid, the previous chairman had laid out this program that it was going to take 3 years to come out of Chapter 11. We put together a program. 11 months later, we were out of bankruptcy. So we had to do a lot of things, some very exciting times in there. So after that, I decided I didn't want to really be a big corporate executive. You know, I like to do startups, new technology, and so forth. So I joined up with Citicorp Venture Capital. At one point, I was running 3 companies that were doing $1.2 billion in sales. I was the chairman, CEO of 3 companies that they had. And of course, I had a plane, but you know, you're gone all the time. So I came home one Saturday to change suitcases, and Nan said she hadn't signed up for this, so, you know, figure it out. So this guy called me and wanted me to take over this Amex company that had started going downhill with losing money. Very quickly, I'd fixed the easy things, and the company was very profitable. I told the board, you know, the way to maximize this is to sell the company to somebody that's going to split it up. So, one of the bankers that had been working with me wanted us to buy it, and we ended up getting it. And after 2 years, I bought all the other partners out. We sold off all but 2 of the divisions and bought everybody out. So that was a happy ending. The last public company was ZDAR, and half the company was geospatial technology that we actually started. I started that company in '98 as a private company doing geospatial technology primarily for large oil and gas companies in the Bureau of Land Management. You know, the only way to really do well in business is to do whatever you're doing better than the competition. And it hadn't hurt that I've made so many mistakes. I don't need to make those mistakes over. You know, if you just say, well, let's don't make any of those same mistakes again, you keep doing better and better. So, you know, when people say, well, do you look back and are you proud of all you've done? And when I look back, I see guys that I was so happy to work with. It's the people side of things. Nan and I formed a not-for-profit organization, the Williamson Foundation, and but we engaged our sons, who were, you know, business people themselves at the time. They didn't want to donate any money that had their name on it, so we changed it to El Puente, the bridge in Spanish. So we've been doing that, and Then I decided, well, we need to create some additional wealth outside of these companies that I'm running. Because the companies that I'm running, you never know if you're going to have a pandemic or this or that. So we created Humanati. It's Humanati in Spanish. We have a lot of real estate holdings and interest in small companies and that kind of stuff. So, and a vineyard in Argentina. The family has been my number one objective all along, starting with just when it was just Nan and I, and then we had kids, and we both understood that there had to be two parents to raise our two sons. If I was in town, I had dinner, except on rare occasions. We would always sit down and have a sit-down dinner. I wasn't one of these guys that never took a vacation. I took the vacation. As long as I had a roof over my head and the family I have, I'm a happy camper. So, both of us grew up going to church, so church has always been an important part. And along the way, Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary, I was asked by the president to join that seminary to head up their endowment. They needed somebody who knew how to make money in the endowment. So I did that for 22 years. And I've been involved with Boy Scouts in every place we've ever gone. We've always involved with United Way. We're de Tocqueville members of the United Way wherever we go. When I left, I didn't really give the academy much thought for a number of years. Somebody was paying attention at the AOG, and I got a call from Skip Scott. He wanted to build Doolittle Hall, so I became a patron, or Nan and I became patrons of that. And then the Savor Society came along, and I thought I was the first person, but I think somebody said Harry Pierce was the first, and I was second or something. But anyway, I joined that, and somebody got me involved in the Falcon Foundation in '85, as I recall. And I'm still a big supporter of that. And Nan and I created $1 million scholarship fund that aimed it for our class of '64 scholarship fund. The foundation is just doing fantastic things. So we're not done doing what we're going to do for the academy. So, when this process started, one of my classmates wanted to nominate me, and I said, Al, there's just no way that they're going to have any more '64 guys. There's 6 DGs from '64. You're wasting your time and effort. I was very honored. I know a lot of people, a lot of graduates who have done a lot of great things, and to be selected, not only was I greatly surprised, but I was greatly humbled by the fact that, I've done my share, but there are a lot of people that have done the same or more. So I'm sitting here today where I am today because I went to the Air Force Academy. I used to tell everybody the second best decision I made was going to the Air Force Academy. The first was marrying Nan, and Nan reminds me that you wouldn't have married me if you hadn't been to the Academy. So no question, the Academy is why I'm here today. It's why I'm worth financially what I'm worth. It's why I'm worth what I am as an individual, as a father, as a grandfather. It's the Academy.